denied marriage once, but seeing him was enough to say yes. The refusal. The rain came down in sheets that November evening, turning the cobblestone streets of Harlow Bay into rivers of silver. Celeste Morgan stood beneath the awning of the old bookshop, watching Julian Cross approach through the downpour. Even soaked to the skin, he was beautiful. Dark hair plastered to his forehead, camera bag slung across his shoulder, eyes bright with the hope that would soon shatter. "I got your message," he said, breathless. "Celeste, what's wrong?" She couldn't look at him. If she did, she'd crumble. "Julian, we need to talk." He stepped closer, water dripping from his jacket. "You're scaring me." The words lodged in her throat like broken glass. Her father's gambling debts had crushed their family. Her mother's medical bills piled higher each week. The offer from her father's business associate, a marriage to his son in exchange for financial salvation, sat heavy as an anchor around her neck. "I can't marry you." Julian's face went pale. "What? Celeste, we've been planning—" "My family needs me," her voice cracked. "You want to travel, to chase your photography dreams. I have responsibilities here." "Then I'll stay. I'll find work here. We'll figure it out together." She shook her head, fighting tears. "No. You'd resent me eventually. Your dreams matter too much." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. The hurt in his eyes nearly undid her resolve. "This isn't about my dreams. This is about us. I love you, Celeste. Doesn't that matter?" "It matters too much," she said finally, meeting his gaze. "That's why I have to let you go." Julian stood frozen in the rain, his hope dissolving into disbelief. "So that's it? You're just giving up on us?" "I'm sorry." The words felt inadequate, cruel. "Please, Julian, just go. Forget about me." "I could never forget you." His voice broke. "You're asking me to forget how to breathe." But she turned away, walking back into the darkened bookshop, leaving him standing alone in the storm. Through the rain-streaked window, she watched him finally turn and disappear into the night, taking her heart with him. The next morning, Julian Cross left Harlow Bay. She heard through mutual friends that he'd gone west, chasing a light and landscapes with his camera. She married David Chen 3 months later, a kind man she didn't love, in a ceremony that felt like a funeral. Her father's debts were paid, her mother received treatment, and Celeste buried her broken heart beneath layers of duty and resignation, never speaking Julian's name aloud again. 7 years passed like a slow-moving glacier, cold and inexorable. The discovery. The morning light filtered through the tall windows of the Metropolitan Art Center, casting geometric shadows across Celeste's desk. She had been divorced for 2 years now. David had been patient, kind even, but they'd both known the truth. You can't build a life on obligation. Her mother had recovered, her father had passed, and Celeste had finally claimed her own existence. Now, as senior curator, she spent her days surrounded by art that moved people, told stories, captured moments of truth. It was the closest she'd come to happiness since that rainy November night. "Celeste, the submissions for the spring exhibition are on your desk," her assistant Marcus called from the doorway. She nodded, pulling the stack of portfolios toward her. The theme was Lost and Found, photographers exploring themes of memory, absence, and rediscovery. She'd reviewed 30 submissions already when she saw the name on the next folder, Julian Cross. Her hands froze. The room seemed to tilt slightly. It couldn't be the same person. Julian was a common enough name. But her fingers trembled as she opened the portfolio, and she knew before seeing the first image that it was him. The photograph showed an empty pier at sunset, a silhouette of a woman standing at the edge, her dress billowing in wind that seemed to carry her away and hold her there simultaneously. The composition was breathtaking, but it was the emotion that struck her. Longing so profound it ached. She turned to the next image.
An abandoned carousel, one horse suspended mid-gallop, forever chasing something just out of reach. Then a window during rainfall, a hand pressed against the glass from inside, the world beyond blurred and unreachable. Each photograph whispered of loss, of love left behind, of moments that haunted rather than faded. The series was titled Echoes of What Was, and Celeste realized with dawning recognition that she knew these moments. That pier was in Harlow Bay. That carousel had been at the summer fair where they'd spent an entire evening 7 years ago. Every photograph was a love letter, written in light and shadow. Her breath came shallow as she reached the final image. It showed 2 coffee cups on a small cafe table, one half empty, one untouched and cold. The composition suggested someone waiting, someone who never came, or someone who came too late. Celeste pressed her fingers to her lips. Julian had become exactly what he'd promised, a photographer who captured raw human emotion and transformed it into art. But these images weren't just technically brilliant. They were personal. They were about her. About them. "Marcus," she called, her voice unsteady. He appeared instantly. "Yes?" "This submission. Julian Cross. Accept it. Feature it prominently. I want the main gallery." Marcus raised an eyebrow at her intensity, but nodded. "Opening night in 6 weeks?" "Yes." She closed the portfolio carefully, as if it might disintegrate. "And Marcus, find out everything you can about him, where he's been, what he's done, where he's living now." After Marcus left, Celeste sat alone with Julian's photographs spread across her desk. 7 years of silence, and now his art screamed everything they'd never said. She traced the edge of one image, remembering the feel of his hand in hers, the way he'd looked at her like she was the only person in the world worth seeing. She had let him go once. The question was now whether fate was offering her a second chance, or simply showing her what she'd lost.
The reunion. The gallery buzzed with anticipation on opening night. Celeste had changed her outfit 3 times, finally settling on a deep emerald dress that Marcus insisted made her look confident. She felt anything but. Her pulse hammered as guests filtered through the entrance, champagne glasses in hand, voices echoing off the high ceilings. Julian's photographs lined the walls like confessions, each one drawing crowds who stood silent before them, moved by the vulnerability captured in every frame. "He's here," Marcus whispered near her elbow. Celeste's stomach dropped. She turned slowly, scanning the crowd, and then she saw him. Julian stood near the entrance, speaking with a journalist, but his eyes were already searching the room. He'd grown into himself, the lean angles of his face more defined, a quiet confidence in his posture that hadn't been there before. He wore a simple black suit, his camera bag conspicuously absent for once. Then their eyes met. The gallery noise faded to white static. Julian's conversation stopped mid-sentence. For a moment, neither moved. Caught in the gravity of 7 years collapsed into a single breath. Celeste forced her feet to move, crossing the polished floor with as much grace as she could manage. Julian met her halfway, and suddenly they were standing face to face, the past and present colliding. "Hello, Julian," she managed, proud that her voice didn't shake. "Celeste." Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer and an accusation at once. "I didn't know you worked here. I mean, I saw your name listed as curator, but I thought maybe it was someone else." "It's me," she smiled, fragile and uncertain. "Your work is extraordinary. Everyone's been talking about it all week." He glanced at the photographs surrounding them, a slight flush coloring his cheeks. "I wasn't sure if you'd understand what they were about." I understood. The admission hung between them, heavy with meaning. A couple moved past, forcing them to step closer together. Julian's cologne, something woody and warm, triggered a cascade of memories. Late nights in his small apartment, his hands gentle as he'd photographed her in candlelight, the way he'd kissed her throat and whispered that she was his muse, his inspiration, his everything. "You look incredible," he said softly. "Life has been kind to you?" "Kind enough." She hesitated.
I'm divorced now, 2 years ago. Something flickered in his expression. Not quite hope, but awareness. I'm sorry. I'm not. The truth of it surprised her. It wasn't fair to him. I married him for the wrong reasons. His jaw tightened. He understood exactly what she meant. And now? Now I curate beautiful art and try to make up for lost time. She gestured to his photographs. You became everything you said you would. I'm proud of you. I became successful. I'm not sure about everything else. Before she could respond, a collector approached, eager to discuss purchasing one of the pieces. Celeste stepped back, watching Julian shift seamlessly into professional mode, but his eyes kept finding her across the conversation, magnetic and questioning. The evening stretched on, both of them orbiting each other through crowds and conversations, never quite alone, but always aware of exactly where the other stood. Finally, as guests began to thin, Julian appeared at her side again. Have coffee with me, he said. Not a question, but not quite a command. Please, we have 7 years to talk about. Celeste looked at the photographs surrounding them, his heart exposed on every wall. She thought of all the nights she'd wondered where he was, what he was doing, if he ever thought of her. Yes, she whispered. Coffee.
The reconnection. The coffee shop was nearly empty at 10 in the evening, just a barista wiping down counters and soft jazz playing through overhead speakers. Celeste and Julian sat across from each other in a corner booth, steam rising from their cups like spirits of conversations yet to be had. I should have fought harder, Julian said suddenly, his fingers tracing the rim of his mug. That night in the rain, I should have refused to leave. Celeste shook her head. I wouldn't have let you stay. I was drowning, Julian. My father's debts, my mother's cancer, it felt like the walls were closing in. David's family offered a lifeline, and I took it. Did you love him? The question came out raw, vulnerable. I respected him. Cared for him even. But love? She met Julian's eyes. No. There was only ever one person I loved, and I sent him away in the rain. Julian's breath caught. Celeste. Let me finish. She wrapped her hands around her cup, needing something to anchor her. I thought I was being noble, sacrificing my happiness for my family. But I was a coward. I was terrified that if you stayed, you'd wake up one day and resent me for clipping your wings. So I clipped them myself. You didn't clip anything. I flew, yes. But every photograph I took, every sunset, every strange city, I was looking for you in all of it. He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of hers. That portfolio you selected, I've been working on it for 7 years. Every image is a conversation I never got to have with you. Celeste's eyes burned with unshed tears. The pier photograph. I remember that day. You wore a yellow sundress. The wind kept catching it, and you laughed every time you had to hold it down. His smile was bittersweet. I took 47 pictures that afternoon. You were never more beautiful. Why did you submit to our gallery? Did you know I'd see it? Julian nodded slowly. Marcus mentioned your name when I inquired about submission guidelines. I could have gone elsewhere, but... He finally closed the distance, his hand covering hers. I needed to know if you'd remember, if those moments meant to you what they meant to me. The touch of his skin against her sent electricity up her arm. 7 years evaporated. She turned her hand over, threading her fingers through his. I never forgot Julian. Not a single day. They talked until the barista apologetically told them they were closing. The conversation spilled out onto the sidewalk, then continued as they walked through the lamplit skates. Julian told her about Thailand, about photographing monks at sunrise, about 6 months in Iceland capturing the northern lights, about Paris, Rome, Tokyo, all the places he dreamed of showing her. Celeste shared her own journey, the slow dissolution of her marriage, the guilt and relief intertwined, her mother's recovery and her father's death. How she'd built a career helping other artists achieve their dreams, since she had abandoned her own. What were your dreams?
Julian asked as they paused outside her apartment building. This will sound foolish. Tell me anyway. She looked up at him, at the way the streetlight cast shadows across his face. I wanted to write. Poetry, maybe, or essays about art and beauty. I wanted to travel with someone I loved and find magic in ordinary moments. She laughed softly. I wanted you, Julian. That was my dream. Just you. He cupped her face in his hands, thumbs brushing her cheekbones. Celeste, I need you to know something. I dated other people. I tried to move on, but no one ever came close to what I felt, what I feel for you. I know. I felt it in every photograph. Can I kiss you? His voice was barely a whisper. I've been wanting to since I saw you in that gallery. Instead of answering, she rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was tentative at first, testing whether the chemistry they'd once shared still existed, but the moment their lips met, 7 years of longing ignited between them. Julian pulled her closer, one hand sliding into her hair, the other at the small of her back. Celeste melted against him, remembering and discovering simultaneously. He tasted like coffee and promise, and when he deepened the kiss, she made a small sound of surrender that seemed to undo him completely. They broke apart, breathing hard, foreheads pressed together. Come upstairs, Celeste whispered. We've wasted enough time.
The second beginning.